This podcast is brought to you by Jarrett Gordon Ford Davenport, your Davenport Ford dealer for new and used sales.
This is City Worship Radio, a Gyra network station.
They're hip and great. They're really cool.
Every day, 24 hours of gospel and CCM. City Worship Radio.
Welcome to Inspired Living with Cynthia, your weekly dose of purpose, passion, and perspective. This is the space where real conversations meet real inspiration, where we uncover the tools, stories, and insights that help you live boldly, think clearly, and walk confidently into the life you were created for. So settle in, open your heart, and get ready to be uplifted, challenged, and inspired. This is Inspired Living with Cynthia.
Good evening and welcome. Our next guest tonight is an accomplished educational leader, an operational strategist with over 2 decades of success. Yes, Dr. Marvin Pitts has dedicated his career to fostering educational excellence, serving in vital roles from teacher to superintendent. Throughout his career, successfully dedicated operations for 17 charter schools across the state, including institutions through rigorous academics and excellent growth. He holds a doctorate of education from the National University, and following 27 years of K through 12 leadership, is transitioning into a new role as a Vice President of Sales and Operations. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Marvin Pitts.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Thank you for having the opportunity to sit down with me tonight. I know we've been trying to get this on the books for a little bit, and I'm just glad we could do it.
Absolutely.
After spending some time with you and hearing parts of your story, I said I wanted to sit down with you and get the full thing.
I don't know if we have time to do a full thing, but can.
Absolutely. Well, you know, the title of my show
Hmm.
is Inspired Living. And so my first question absolutely has to be about that. What does inspired living mean to you?
I think it's twofold. I mean, you need to yourself be inspired, but you also don't want to be selfish with it.
Right.
You want to do things that could and should inspire other people. Whether it is something professional, it might be something personal, right? I need some people to inspire me to lose some weight, and so it might not necessarily be something personal. It might be something professional, and so I think it should be both sides of the coin, heads and tails, and not to drop a math term, but you don't want it just to be a segment, but you want it to be a line.
All right.
In other words, you want it to go both directions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Awesome, awesome. Now, reflecting on the journey, 27 years in education is a remarkable legacy. Um, when you look back at your time across K through 12 and higher education, what is the proudest impact you feel you've made on student achievement?
I think my mind goes back to when I first became a principal, which was 2009, if my memory is right. And I worked with a charter school, a group of charter schools, four that opened at the same time, but mine was in Osceola County.
Okay.
These were students who were at-risk students, and I was, a brand new principal. I had only been in leadership as a reading coach and as a writing coach. So I went from a reading coach role right into a principal's role for a charter school. But these were students who, for lack of better terms, were not successful in their traditional high schools.
Right.
And they came to us so that we could help them get their high school diploma.
Right.
And so that group of students really shaped and transformed my life. And so we went from students who, and I'm being serious, who were being arrested for things they were doing outside of school to becoming deputy sheriffs themselves.
Oh, wow.
And so, seeing them being, on the opposite side and grow and develop to just great young men and women, and having my name on their diploma as their principal probably has been the most proudest thing for me, because those were children that really some of their family members had given up on them, you know. And when they would find out that they were done and actually going to graduate, some of the parents didn't believe it,
Wow.
because it was that child who had so much trouble and so many issues over the course of their life that the family unfortunately had lost hope, not necessarily in the child themselves, but in that will they graduate? If they graduate, they had given up on that.
Wow, wow. I can certainly see how that would be just a proud moment.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's life changing for those students as well as yourself.
True, very
All
true.
right. You are highly regarded for your collaborative approach in the often complex world of multi-state charters and operations. How did you successfully bring different voices together to align on institutional values?
So during those years, Zoom was hot and heavy.
Okay.
Zoom is not paying me. I'm just telling you that that's what we used. And so Zoom was hot and heavy during that time for us. So I'll tell you, I had 17 schools in 5 different states. So let me see if I can remember. So I had Florida, Indiana, Illinois, Colorado, and Ohio. So I, simply calendar invites, emails, and then getting everybody on those Zoom calls from sometimes all of those different states together to collaborate is really what helped me. I have always been very humble where if sometimes the leadership tries to take all the glory for whatever happens, right? I knew that I had to get the people in the room or on Zoom to be able to hear what they have to say. You as a leader, you don't have all the answers.
Right.
I mean, and not to get too deep, but the scripture says, in the multitude of counsel, there's safety.
Exactly.
And so, in other words, you need some people around you to help you come up with, strategies. I'll tell you, sometimes you think you've come up with the best plan, and all it takes is one person to say, "Did you consider?" And then you say, "Oh my goodness, That is a huge component, and I didn't even think about it, right?
Yep.
The other thing I did when I had to build my own team, sometimes over the years I inherited teams, which were wonderful and they took care of me, right? But there were times that I had to build my own team.
Right.
I hired people who were smarter than me in certain areas. Areas that I felt like I knew like the back of my hand, I didn't hire people who knew that. I hired people who knew things that I did not know, or that I felt like I was either rusty in or weak in, and not to say that that's a bad thing, because when you're weak, then you on your way to strength if you do something about it, right? But I hired people who knew more than me.
Right.
So then as a team, we were super strong because there was no weak link. Somebody on that team knew something about it, whatever it may have been.
Right. Yeah, that is so key in leadership. And I found through life and through my career that when you can teach people that one thing, don't be afraid to surround yourself with
Yes.
people that know more than you.
Yes.
That they once they get that concept, the sky's the limit for them personally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And another thing to add is I've never been the type to hoard or gatekeep on knowledge. I always wanted to share things with people, even if it were things that they weren't necessarily going to touch, but it was knowledge that they had. So if the day came that they did elevate and move up or go to a different role, they knew it. I don't know where these people get this mindset from that me holding on to information is job security or role security. No, that's just crazy because the day that it's also selfish too, Cynthia, because the day that you retire, you leave, you win the lottery, whatever, you don't want the entity, if you genuinely care about it, to start to fall apart. You want it to continue to run it, if nothing else, run at the same level, or if nothing greater, run better than it was when you were there. So you always want to share information with people.
Yeah. I always found that, and it's the toughest for new managers when they just got the role. They don't want this person to know because then it may. So, but anyway, that's definitely how you do a collaborative approach. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, schools are notorious for needing to do more with less. What was your secret to optimizing resources while still keeping the focus squarely on empowering your students?
So I think, and I'll try to chunk this. One of the things that, and just from a not necessarily a leadership role, but just straight up managerial, right? Everyone's job description has that line that's usually at the very bottom that says other duties assigned, right? So sometimes we don't like that. But when I hired people, and even at the beginning of the school year and throughout the year, that's one thing that I reminded the staff. All of us have other duties assigned. So what I did is I led by example. Whatever I asked them to do, even if it weren't in their job description, I did those things too. So I'll give you an example. One day I showed up with jeans and the school t-shirt on. We had Spirit shirts, they had our logos on it, and tennis shoes. And of course the kids always liked when I dressed, the way that they dressed. But the staff said, "Why are you in that?" And I said, "Because I am tired of paying Waste Management additional dollars because that dumpster enclosure will not allow the truck to push the dumpster all the way back in. So we're paying money and there's garbage all behind there." So I took time to clean out the dumpster enclosure so the next time that the dump truck or the truck came, right, he could set the dumpster fully inside the enclosure. Right. So from that point on, anything else that they saw me do, mopping the floors, whatever, I led by example. And it wasn't like for example, if sometimes I forgot things that were serious and we need to get it done, I would ask them to stay late, but I didn't get in my car and go home when I've asked them to stay late.
Right.
So if we were staying to 9 o'clock at night, all of us stayed until 9 o'clock at night. And then I would buy them food, to say thank you for staying here with me. And what it did was when those opportunities arose, everybody joined in and worked and knocked it out, so that when the students got back to the building or during the hours that the students were there, we could focus on them.
Right.
Because ultimately, if sometimes people think that everything is just teaching and learning. Yes, that's a huge part of it. But if the technology is not working, if we're not generating enough income as a school to be able to pay for certain teachers and certain roles, the students are going to suffer. So there's some operational things and just simple things about even us today. We're not going to go into a restaurant unless it has a great reputation that looks bad on the outside. Now we know it looks bad on the outside, but the food is good on the inside. The people are clean on the inside. We're going in.
Right.
But that's through either word of mouth, a reference, someone told you, or you just experienced it, right? So sometimes us having to work together, even to do things like painting in the parking lot, pulling up, dead shrubbery, any of those things, so that we attract more families. Why? If we attract more families, and this is sometimes people don't like to talk about the money side of school. All entities need money, right?
Yes.
Then we'll attract more families.
Right.
We'll attract more families. The dollars follow the kids, and now I can hire that reading teacher that I had been waiting to hire to impact not just those few families who came additionally, but all the students on that campus who needed that reading teacher.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is, and you're right. People don't like to talk about that side of it, but it's so pivotal.
Yes, you have to have the resources and the funds, even with churches, even with nonprofit organizations, everything. Same way our house needs money to run, any other house needs money to run.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. Wow. Okay, so you're making a major pivot this year, transitioning from the world of education to vice president for sales and operations. What sparked this shift for you after nearly 3 decades?
Let me think about that for a second or two. Um, I think the world of education is so different today than it was even 5 years ago, and certainly 15 or 20 years ago. I, my passion, my burn has been for the children. And whenever I see that systems are doing things that are better for adults, um, there's a whole lot of politics in it. It really is it's uncomfortable. It really is. And so this new venture, I thought it was funny at first because I thought here I am thinking that maybe it's time to do something different as an outreach to help students or to help kids, but or not, right? And this organization that I'm with now only makes uniforms for schools, which is for me it's a huge safety thing, right?
Right.
Because if you are really concerned about the safety of a school, there are really two big pieces to it. One is being able to identify who's who, and the structural security. Are gates locked? Do doors lock? Is there an alarm system? Are there panic buttons? Is there armed security? But if you have someone who is on campus and you can't identify them, one, because they don't have a uniform on, and two, because there's no ID, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because you don't know if it's an intruder. Years ago, and we thought it was funny at the time, these days I don't think it's funny. But when we left the campus one day going home, there was a homeless man with one of our shirts on.
Mm.
And during that time, we thought this is hilarious. Here's this homeless person. So that means one of those students saw that guy who obviously didn't have a shirt and said, "Let me give you my shirt,"
right.
which was heartwarming and funny at the same time. These days, that's not funny to me because it made me think, wait a minute, that means anybody, if the families are done with the school, they take those uniforms and drop them off at Salvation Army or at Goodwill, right? Somewhere, and they go and get one of those shirts, they can come to a school, and people may think that they are staff,
right,
if they're old enough, or a student if it's a high school, right? And they really could be an intruder.
Yeah. Yep.
So at least on this side with this new venture, we're pushing uniforms. So all schools in the state of Florida, all schools even in Polk County, do not wear uniforms. Some of them are allowed, and I get it, where you want to, students want to be independent and want to have their own fashion and their own identity, and I get that, right? But today we live in a time where things are just not safe the way they used to be.
Yep.
And that's for us as adults, that's for us as children. And so being with this new entity, um, just encouraging other schools. Yes, I know bringing on these additional schools is going to, give us additional funds as an organization, but it's also to make people realize that one more way to be able to identify and secure that campus could ensure that on any given day that tragedy strikes, everybody goes home to their families
Right.
by wearing a uniform that is strictly customized for those schools based on the designs that the admin of that school wants. So they select their colors, they select their logo, their emblem, and all of that is just another way to identify who's who for safety.
For safety purposes, absolutely. Okay. A lot of people might look at K through 12 administration and corporate sales operations as two completely different worlds. How do the skills that you honed in education as an educational leader translate into driving sales and operations in your new role?
You will not do anything without people.
Mm-hmm.
And so leadership is leadership.
That's true.
Whether it's nonprofit, whether it's for profit, a school, a hotel, a restaurant. So my skills of being able to identify talent from the very beginning and being able to get that talent to work together as a team, as a unit, is really the simplest way I can put it of how things have transferred from the school side over to the sales and operations. I'll tell you something else. I am, as far as leadership, I'm the only educator. So sometimes being on sales and business, schools do operate a little differently, right? And so part of my role joining this organization is to help to be able to provide a better service to schools and be able to think like a principal, like, okay, I hear what you all are saying, but as a principal, I wouldn't like that.
Right.
Or as a
Okay.
principal, I think we should market it this way.
Right.
Or how do the parents know about this new idea that we've come up with? And then they say, oh, you know what? We hadn't even thought about it. So then my mind goes to, most schools have a mass communication system,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
how about if we send this to the schools a week, 2 weeks before we launch it, let them share it with the families, and then they can, get people excited about it. And so those are the types of things that my role is specifically are helping with, is helping them to see it through the lens of an educator.
Right.
But leadership is leadership, and talent searching is talent searching. Holding people accountable is holding people accountable, and then also putting systems in place. If schools have nothing else, they have systems, right?
That's key.
My goodness, sometimes it's like, wait a minute, we have a system for the system, right? And so some of that needs to happen on the business side of things
Right.
also, and on the sales side of things, checks and balances,
Yes.
checkpoints. We do a whole lot of paperwork, a whole lot of documenting on the school side, and sometimes that's absent on something that's
Business side.
that's a non-educational entity, right?
Mhm.
And so also helping implement some of those strategies and putting those documentations in place and
Yeah.
setting up systems. So there aren't any loopholes, the best that we can control.
Right.
And, even little things like every time now we do a pop-up shop. So we go to the school, we set up as a pop-up. When we leave, we send a survey back to the school because we want to know, what did the family say while we were there? Are there things that we can do to better serve you, to better serve the families? Are there sizes, right? So we had a situation where there were some families in California, and those students were larger than what we normally carry. And so we thought, well, they could just go and, get it from somewhere else, right? But then we had to do a little research. On the school's website, it says that they must purchase their bottoms from us. So we couldn't be dismissive. And the team initially said, oh, it'll probably be okay. And I said, no, now we're putting the principal in a bad situation
Yeah.
because he or she has said, you must purchase your bottoms from our organization, right? And now we're trying to be a little dismissive. And so what we did is we sat around, we strategized. All right, here are some options. Let's be transparent. Let's tell them they can go ahead and do a custom order, but it will take X amount of time. And maybe during that time frame, the principal can give them some grace until the new piece comes in. So sometimes they're not thinking in that manner. They're just trying to pivot and shift because that's usually what businesses do, right?
Yep.
Just move on to the next thing. But we want to make sure because again, for me, it's a big safety thing.
Yeah. So it's just important to cover everything.
Yeah, as much as possible.
Yep. All right, stepping into a new industry after reaching the top of your field takes courage. Have there been any surprises, challenges, or aha moments that you prepared uh, for this transition?
I think I don't know if I've had any ahas. I think what I've found that has been a little refreshing is the things that have come up that may have been a challenge hadn't been as difficult or challenging as some of the things I've encountered as an educator.
Okay.
And the other day, yesterday, one of the employees said to me, "You know what? You make things that are problems seem like they're not that big, and you make us feel like we can just keep going on." And I said, "Yeah, because people tend to make things deeper than what they are, right? It's not that deep.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going home with these people and sleeping in the same bed as their spouse at night. It's not that deep." And so it did take some courage on my part, and I heard you mention that, and it also took faith, right? Because when you've done something for almost 30 years and now you are doing a career change, it can be challenging. Right. And so there wasn't, I don't want to say anxiety, but there were some of those thoughts at the back of my mind. What is it that I'm going to encounter that I may not be able to handle? And it's one thing when you come into an organization as a like an entry level person, people expect you not to know certain things, right? Mm-hmm. But if you come into the organization and you're considered the executive level, they expect you to have answers.
Right.
And so it's you have to be humble and tell them, "I don't know that. I'm learning this the same way you're learning it." And so that's been, some of the things that have come up. I've had to say that to people, and people respect you more when you don't try to act like you're a know-it-all.
Yeah, for sure.
So just letting them know I am learning this right along with you. So it's been good, the things that I have encountered, because I've been able to learn it with the employees. Some of the employees know things that are, A to Z to the T, and they've been able to teach it to me. And then when someone else runs into that problem, I've been able to share it with them.
That's excellent. I always drawing on people's knowledge, other people's knowledge.
Absolutely.
Important part of it. Many of our listeners are navigating their own careers, transitioning or stepping into new leadership roles. What advice would you give someone who is hesitant to make a big leap?
Do it. I know Nike said it first. Just do it.
Yeah.
Because you at this juncture time in my life, I want to live with no regrets. And sometimes, and that was one of the reasons why I took this opportunity, right? Because most educators stay for 30 years, 40 years, and they just retire out of that. And then some of them go back and do the same thing, for a little while or do something different. But it's not normal that an educator would go as long as I did and then try a different, avenue. You just have to do it because you don't want to be 5, 10, 15 years down the road and regret that you didn't try it.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, make sure you look at things from a panoramic view, right? You don't want to just take a snapshot and say, "Oh, I think I can do that." If you know people in that industry, talk to them. Ask them what were some of their challenges. Ask them what were some of the wows of it, right? And if there are, finances attached to it, figure out if you can make a transition, because sometimes you'll transition up, meaning, money-wise. Sometimes you transition down. And I'm being transparent here. For me, it's a transition down. So taking this role has actually been a pay decrease for me.
Oh, wow.
Now, there's an opportunity for me to get back up to where I was and supersede that, over a period of time. But that's why another thing when you're considering doing something different, you might even have to adjust some of the things that you do, right? So now, don't y'all judge me, but what I had 3 vehicles and I sold one, right? On my way down to this adjustment. Why? Because that's an expense that I didn't need because that's just a want, right? And so I sold one of my vehicles that allowed me to free up money. And then I knew I was going to transition eventually. So I paid off a lot of debt while I was at that higher salary range, right? So now I have peace of mind at the level that I'm at, and I can focus on the job and the new journey versus trying to figure out, man, I've taken this new role. It's a pay decrease. I feel like, and then you start struggling, and then you may not be able to go back to where you were, right? So going back to my point, you got to look at things from a panoramic view, do your research, but after you've done that, go for it. So you don't have regrets down the road.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, it sounds like you did some just incredible homework and planning. So planning would be key.
Have to.
Planning would be key.
Yes.
So in your planning, what all, I know you looked at the economic side of it. What else came into that panoramic view?
So I talked to insiders, right? So fortunately, I had worked with this company and had known of them for some years. And so I knew that it was a family-based company. So I reached out to family members who had either worked in the company or were still working in the company. And then I knew some people who knew the leadership, the ownership of the company, so I spoke with them. I also looked at their track record, their Google reviews. Oh yeah, all of that, right? Because if I'm, to your point, and I tell you the truth, the journey, the 27 years has been mind blowing at some times, right? So to be at that level and being able and transitioning, yes, I had to check things out, right? And then even looking at how many years they've been in business, right? Looking at where you've been the same size all these years, or have you grown as an entity? Yeah, it's easy to boast that you've been around for 30 years, 25 years, 40 years. But were you one unit for all those years, or did you grow to multiple units, right? Because if you grew to multiple units, even if you had to shut down a couple of them over the last 30 or 40 years, big deal. At least you're not the same size you were when you started.
Right.
Then once I did some, when you come in at an executive level, you're going to have some dinners, you're going to have some lunches. And so then during those times, the same way they asked questions, I had my questions ready. My own questions ready, written out, typed out, that I could ask them and see, did it make them uncomfortable to answer that question, or were they comfortable and exude some confidence when they responded, right? So all those things, reading the people, listening to what are their goals. And when you go on an interview, this is one thing I would tell people, whether it is at a lunch, at a restaurant, someone's house, depending on what level of an executive, they might invite the person to their home, right? Or be in an office. You need to have questions. Leaders ask questions.
Yes.
So it's one of the things that when I interview people, and unfortunately I've interviewed hundreds of people over the years, but I shouldn't say unfortunate, it's been fortunate. When they don't have any questions, I think, it doesn't mean that person's not going to be a good fit in the role that they're interviewing in, but it makes me second guess, would they be a leader one day? Would I be able to move them into a different role? So I know I've said a lot, but when you're planning, you got to make sure you set things up for you, because ultimately organizations, their main focus is their organization. They're not necessarily focused on one person. You only have you to focus on. Now, if you have your family, like a spouse and children living still at the same address that you live at, you got to think about all those things, right?
Yeah.
And so asking about schedules and do things change, right? I'm used to being off in the summertime or at least having some downtime. And this role, that's the peak time for us.
Oh, wow.
So it has shifted my world where I'm used to taking vacation and taking time off in the summer, and now I can't, right? So just knowing all those things up front. As much information as you can get up front. And don't get excited about salaries. You need to know all the details that go into those salaries. And I'll say this and then I'll pause. One of the questions I asked them, how many employees do you have that's been with you 5 or more years? Because when there's a lot of turnover in an organization, my grandma used to say, something in the milk ain't clean, right? And I said it the same way. She said, something in the milk ain't clean, right? And so when they said, oh, this person and that person, and we have so they had about a third of their employees who had been with them that long or more, and that gave me some peace. If they said none, I wouldn't have taken the opportunity. I just wouldn't have, because the number one reason people either go or stay, research shows, their boss.
Yep.
Not their salary, not the benefits, not the schedule. The number one reason research shows people either stay or go is their boss.
It's that joker they got to report to.
Exactly.
Make you walk away from the money,
right?
From the benefits,
all of it.
I can't, I can't go one more day.
No, all of it.
Wow. Okay. Well, we've covered a lot of ground. So here on this show, we're all about finding inspiration in our daily lives, as well as our life's work. So as you step into this exciting new season, what does inspired living look like to you right now?
I think for me, being able to help the people in the organization who are not used to my type of leadership. There are a lot of young people. And today I feel like our young people, I have to be careful how I say it because it's not 100% of them, but it's enough of them that is concerning. They're lost. And I don't just look at that from like a spiritual side, but even how any angle you want to come from, any letter of the alphabet that you want to pick a subject, there's a lot of them that are lost.
Absolutely.
So what inspires me is seeing the younger crowd that we have working for us in this organization come to me to ask questions, talk to me about issues that they may be having, being able to give them some nuggets, some knowledge that will help them in our entity, whether they decide to start their own business one day, go back to school, or whether they go and work for a whole nother organization. Those that are in their high teens and their 20s that are working with us, that is a group of people across the United States that I am just genuinely concerned about, and I'm not the only one that's concerned about.
Right.
Because, COVID really put a wrinkle, a bump in the road, whatever you want to call it, in education, but also in a lot of other things, right? And so a lot of people went into depression during those times because they couldn't get out. Yes, because they couldn't get out and interact with people and do the things that they normally do. And so a lot of people gave up on their dreams and their goals and whatever during that time. And so being able to inspire them to not give up. Why are you here? What does this job, mean to you? Well, I really wanted to. Well, what keeps you from doing that now? Yeah. And so sometimes it may be able to say, I tell you what, when you go on your break, save 5 minutes, and then I want to show you this website that you can go on and get information about scholarships, so that you can go back to school and figure out the schedule, right? Maybe you have to go just do it online so you can still keep your job, but go after it. And so inspiring them to pick up whatever they may have dropped off. Sometimes You come in the house and you drop your bag at the door, and it might be a bag that's your gym bag, and you might not pick it up again for 2 weeks or whatever, right? No, go back and pick it up. So helping them to pick up some of those goals and dreams that they had that maybe they had given up on for various reasons, and being able to show them too. Sometimes we do a whole lot of talking, but we're not willing to take another 5 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever, to show a young person. Pick up the phone, show them a website that they can go on that will help them, right? Or make a phone call. You know, Cynthia, I'm here with John, and I think you can help John because he wants to do whatever. Do you mind if I give him your phone number?
Right.
Right? Just doing those things for this young generation so that they can at least have somebody else to connect with. And then it's up to them. But it's inspiring for me. And then being able to do those little 2 or 3 minutes and showing them different things inspires them, because the single most powerful thing research shows is a constant adult in a young person's life. Somebody who's not going to give up on them and not going to turn their back on them.
Right.
And whether they mess up or do everything right, they know that that person's still going to be there for them. It is the single most powerful thing in their life to help them get to their destination and to their finish line.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That is, that's so remarkable. We have to be, and you're so passionate about it. I can tell about our young people, because many of them are at a crossroads because of COVID, because of what they see in the news, and so many other things have just taken the joy out of living for them, and it's so critical. So those are just some great takeaways. Thank you so much for sharing those.
Absolutely.
Where we are done with a lot of the formal questions.
Okay.
Now we're gonna have what I like to call some rapid fire questions.
Yes.
Really don't have anything to do with anything, but
Okay.
they're just going to let our audience get to know you just a little bit better. You don't mind that, right?
No, I don't. I don't.
Okay. What's a small thing that brings you immense joy?
Immense joy?
Immense joy.
Oh, okay. I got it.
It's gonna be good. I can tell.
My favorite thing to eat is cake.
Okay.
And so when I find a baker who is a true baker, or when I find a cupcake shop, brownie or cookie shop, and they nail it, I'm like a kid. And you know how some people may be steak and potatoes, or they're seafood kings and queens. Okay, that's their thing. Quality desserts. The family said I am a dessert snob, and that's okay. I'll take it. But just finding just good old-fashioned homemade quality baked goods it's a delight.
Just gives you joy. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What's the best advice you've ever received in 5 words or less?
Ooh, 5 words or less. I don't know if I can come up with, because the one that comes to mind is more than 5 words. So, I mean, it's not long. But I can't think of a.
Well, just share it.
If they thought the way that you think, they would be in your shoes. And it helped me as a leader, because I used to be frustrated with people not thinking the way I thought.
Yeah.
And my boss said to me, he's gone now, unfortunately, he lost that battle to cancer, and he said, Marvin, if they thought the way you thought, they would be in your position.
Right.
They would be in your shoes. So stop expecting them to think the way you think, and encourage them and help them and coach them and mentor them.
Yeah. Well, that's a good one. That's a good one. All right. Fill in the blank. The world needs more
Love.
Absolutely. What is one thing you're most grateful for in this exact moment?
I think my health.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people sick. People don't believe it. I'm going to tell the world, I have an artificial hip. And whenever I would go to the surgeons or talk to, they would walk into the room like this. So, Mr. Pitts, you're too young for this. And I would say, I know. But they said something called avascular necrosis. And one out of 250,000 people end up with it, right? And I went through a journey in my life where I was on 3 prescription drugs from the doctor, taking professional grade CBD, and my pain still was at like a 7 every day.
Oh, wow.
And so I had to stop traveling. I had to stop grocery shopping. It took all I had just to go to work and get back home. But anyway, my health is something that I'm really grateful for, because there are a lot of people who are sick, and doctors just don't have answers for them. There are a lot of people who are struggling with all kinds of things, and I'm just grateful to have the health that I have. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Here just recently, I've had some struggles with my mobility, and you don't realize how much you take things like that for granted.
Absolutely.
Until it's a challenge.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just every day just working through it, but it has been challenging. So,
I know what you mean.
all right. What is your favorite scent or sound?
I don't know if I have a favorite scent, but bergamot is, when it's in a fragrance, it stands out to me. I also like oud, but bergamot has become one of my favorite scents. Yeah.
All right. What is a belief that you hold about life or anything that you think that many people might disagree with you on?
There's a lot. There's a lot of them, I'm sure, but one of them is, and you can call it several different things, but what you plant is what you harvest. And sometimes people don't necessarily agree with that. They think that they can plant certain things, and let me just keep it real. However you treat people, it's going to come back, right?
Absolutely.
So I tell people, you can call it a boomerang, you can call it karma, you can, now these days you can call it the universe, you can call it God, however you want to call it. Whatever you put out there, you're going to get it back.
It's coming back.
So I said, you don't be foolish. Put out a whole lot of good, so good will come back to you, right? That's something that I have believed as a child, and all the way up through my adulthood, and I will until the day I, get out of here, right? Whatever you put out there, you're going to get it back.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people don't hold that, but they need to.
Yeah, it's the truth. And here's just a little sidebar, right? If you put it out there, you were big and bad and bold enough to put it out there, go back and pick it up. And sometimes just simply apologizing to people, telling them you were sorry. Say it however you want to say it. I was having a bad day. I was going through things at home. I shouldn't have said it like that. I meant what I said, but I shouldn't have said it like that, right? Because sometimes you don't want to tell a lie. You meant what you said, right? But you shouldn't have said it like that.
Right.
You need to calm down and let your emotions get intact before you express the way you did. But if you've done it, go back and pluck it up.
Yep, absolutely. All right, last rapid fire.
Okay.
What is one uninspired activity that you do just for fun?
People watch. So I can sit in a mall, airport, restaurant, and people watch for hours. And I had gotten to a point where I thought I might be a little crazy now, because I would sit in the airport and then I would start to form stories about people, right? So that family is going to visit their family. It's Christmas time. That's the wife. And I would make up this whole, and I thought that's the teacher in me, the writing teacher in me, trying to write a story about these people that I'm looking at. But I can people watch. If I take my mother to the mall or anyone to the mall and I can sit, they can shop for hours, won't bother me.
Wow.
I'm a people watch.
Yeah, I can do that too. Yeah. All right. As we're wrapping up, I just want to ask, as we wrap up this conversation, what is one central message you hope that every listener takes away from our conversation tonight?
Your life is not over. It doesn't matter what you've been through. It doesn't matter what has happened to you. Your life is not over. So go for it. Whatever your goals were, pick them up again. Whatever your dreams were, let them come to life again. You may have to work hard. You may have to modify some things. You may have to dial back some of your spending. You might have to cut some people out of your life. But live. Live. Charlie Brown said to Snoopy one day we're going to die. And Snoopy said, yeah, but all the other days we're going to live. Let's not focus on the end of our life. Let's not focus on the day that we're going to die. Let's just live every day like it's another day, another opportunity, and seize the moment. Whatever your goals are, whatever your dreams are, whatever your ambitions are, line yourself up, go for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it has just been a joy.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed our conversation.
Likewise.
I tell you, I want to, if the audience wants to connect with you, because I know you do a lot of mentoring, you're still in touch with your students and so forth. What's the best way for them to look right in the camera and tell them the best way for them to connect with you?
So I am a texter. I do not, because I talk all day, I do not like to talk on the phone. But I'm on social media. You can find me on Facebook. Marvin DP is the name. Send me a friend request. Send me a message through Messenger, and I will connect with you and help you as much as I possibly can, or connect you with someone or some avenue or venture or website that I think will be of benefit to you.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much
Glad to be
for
here.
sharing with us tonight. I have totally enjoyed it.
Thank
and we'll
you.
have to
Likewise.
do it again. I'm going to catch up with you maybe 6 months from now.
Okay.
And see how you're enjoying that new role.
Yes.
And what else you have to share with us.
I'll be happy to do it.
All right. Very good. That would conclude our show for the evening. Thank you so very much for tuning in. And I hope you enjoyed the conversation. And again, remember to live your life inspired.
This podcast was brought to you by Jarrett Gordon Ford Davenport, your Davenport Ford dealer for new and used sales, with 1,868 new and used Fords in stock. Visit us to test drive any of Ford's new vehicles, from the best-selling F-150 truck to the all-electric Mustang Mach-E compact crossover. Ford's latest models offer world-class comfort, cutting-edge infotainment, innovative driver safety aids, and turbocharged power. Jarrett Gordon Ford Davenport. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Inspired Living with Cynthia, your weekly dose of purpose, passion, and perspective. I hope today's conversation encouraged you, empowered you, and gave you something meaningful to carry into your week. Remember, inspiration isn't just something you hear, it's something you live. So take what you've learned, apply it with courage, and keep moving toward the life that's calling you. Until next time, reminding you to stay inspired, stay intentional, and stay true to your purpose. Have a blessed and beautiful week.